Okay, so all right, we're gonna get started here. Again, the program that you're interested in is the VITA program, sponsored by the Greater Mercer County United Way. What the program essentially is provides a free federal and state tax return for taxpayers with household income under 65,000. Now, that is somewhat of a soft top of 65K. For those of you that are familiar with the area, there's a lot of retirees for the state of New Jersey in the our area. Household that's married filing jointly, for instance, with two state pensions and two Social Security checks could easily get to be 80 to maybe 85,000 even, which is not exactly wealthy. These folks generally don't have any investment income or maybe a little bank interest. They own their own home. That's about it. And actually, you'll see that a 1099 is generally easier to input than a W-2. Again, these are generally seniors that are in that sort of fixed income, but it's north of 65K. The program is fully supported by the IRS. Most of our grant money comes from the IRS as well as other benefactors that we have. It's fully endorsed by the state of New Jersey. The local underwriting organization for this program is the United Way of Greater Mercer. We don't limit our taxpayers to Mercer County, although most of them are from Mercer. Now, we operate at various sites in the Trenton Hamilton area in Mercer County. Our four primary locations are the Salvation Army. This is in Trenton, right behind
Yeah,
um,
before that,
the
I know when it comes to the Alex, he plays it back into the defensive
oh,
line.
get
Yeah,
on mute there,
why
please.
is it done by Robin?
There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Right near the Trenton train station, it's one of our busiest sites. We're there three afternoons a week. We're also at the Boys and Girls Club in Lawrenceville near the Trenton Farmers Market on Saturday mornings. The Hamilton Public Library is also one of our sites. We're there on Wednesday and Thursday mornings. And then the United Way offices on Quaker Bridge Road in Hamilton. We're there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings. Our we start the first full week in February. We run right up until the April 15th. We actually run extended season as well. We take a 2 week break, and we've been very busy ever since the second week in May. We've been cranking out returns every Wednesday. Again, most sites are open for specific times on a weekly basis, and usually 3 to 4 hours per session. Now, there are five primary ways to get involved in the program. The first would be what we call a greeter or internal initial screener. That would be someone who's not going to initially prepare taxes, but is a very important point of contact. They're the first person they're going to see, and that they will then start filling out the paperwork. The greeter will see their check their ID and social security card, give them the paperwork to start filling out, ask any questions. There's also again, we have a fair amount of translation opportunities for folks that speak Spanish. A number of our locations, particularly Salvation Army, has staff that do speak Spanish and can help in a pinch, but it's always nice to have people who are certified and do speak Spanish. Then, of course, there's the tax preparer who must be certified by the IRS after passing a qualification test. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be organizing the documents, preparing the return, making sure all the diagnostics look good, and then sending it on to the reviewer who will then basically check everybody's work. Again, you just don't prepare it and send it in. Everything gets checked. And because there's still, even though our returns are generally pretty simple, there's plenty of places where easy mistakes can be avoided with a good review. And then the site coordinator. Site coordinator is basically just in charge of the whole operation of the site, making sure that it's adequately staffed, that people are moving through the process in an efficient manner. And then there's also the e-filing at the end of the day is what the site coordinator will do. Okay, the way the process works is, the taxpayer, they show up at a site, they're going to be called to meet with a volunteer. They're going to assist them completing the intake form, and we'll review what that looks like in later sessions. Help fill in any kind of supplementary information that we want to have for the tax preparer. Things like what their rent is, any out-of-pocket medical expenses, especially their bank info now, and we'll get into how important that's going to be this tax season. And any if they've been at any previous site, and any other special instructions they could have. Again, maybe there were some issues last year. Again, that person will then organize the documents and begin the input process. Okay, once all that is complete, the preparer runs the diagnostics in our software. Everything looks fine. All the documents are organized. They go over to the reviewer. The reviewer goes through everything, prints out the return, gets them to sign. Reviews, why their refund is this or why they owe that. They sign the e-file authorization. That is the only piece of paper that we keep. We return all the documents to them along with their printed copy of the tax return. And we inform them that it will be e-filed within 24 hours. Ideally, that's the last time we'll see them for the next year. We will follow up only if there's any errors in the e-file process. Unfortunately, we see more and more of that, and we'll get into that as we get through training. We try to avoid that as much as possible, but it's not always within our power. So just again, the thing, why this is such a great organization. I mean, you get to meet like-minded individuals, you make new friends, you're going to learn a new skill. If any of you are CPAs or enrolled agents like I am, you can get continuing education credits. Um, you can also file friends and family taxes for free, which is, could save you $300. And again, the more volunteers we have, the bigger the impact in the community. And most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, I make tax season fun. Again, it's a stressful process for a lot of people. More and more of our folks owe money, and we get trying to make that as painless as possible. And what I'd like to share with you is some information on who it is that we serve. Sort of a a snapshot of our cohort. So in 2024, this was as of May 2nd, we did 2,225 returns. Since then, we've done at least an additional 200 through the summer. That was a 17% increase over 2023. And at $300 a return, which is roughly what paid preparers are getting in Mercer County, that's 667,000 that stays in the community. These are our four um, filing sites, filing IDs. As you can see, the spot in Trenton and Lawrenceville was our biggest one. And this is an interesting part here, the filing status. 73% of our filers, and this has been consistent for a number of years now, are single. Um, and so the good news is single taxpayers are generally a lot easier to file than those that are married filing joint or head of household because of other due diligence things that we have to do. But again, we've been trying to work very hard to get more head of household. Single parent homes are generally single mothers because of the impact of the earned income credit and the child tax credit on those individuals. A lot of them tend to go to paid preparers early in the season to get their returns in as soon as possible. Our average age is 54, so as you can see, we do skew a bit older. We do get a lot of seniors in our program. This is an interesting statistic here that only 53% of our returns use direct deposit this past year. The main reason for that is quite a few of our returns are for seniors who have little or no taxable income. And as such, a lot of times they have money withheld, which they're just getting returned to them when they file their tax return. And believe it or not, I've had this conversation dozens of times. They would prefer a paper check because that's just that much longer that they're going to wait for their refund that they won't spend it. It's their way of saving money, essentially. Unfortunately, with the executive order from this summer, all that's going to stop. Everybody's going to need to get some sort of direct deposit set up. I mean, a lot of people just forget and don't want to go home and get their banking info, or they don't know how to get it on their phone. It could be a lot of reasons, but this is something we're going to be really having to pay a lot of attention to this year. Getting people, even if they don't have a bank relationship, they're going to have to use the Cash App or Chime or some other fintech uh, front end to to get their refund. And if they owe, that's going to be another issue. Speaking of which, I mean, our average gross income, as you can see, is well below the 65K threshold. So we're at 33,000, which was up 3% from 2023. So it's a nice uptick. We generated 2.3 million in refunds. That was up 11%. Across everything, that's an average of $700. Um, and for those that actually got a refund, it was $1,500, which is actually down for the year. The main reason that is since the Tax Act of 2016, um, by law, they're taking out less federal withholding, which ideally is good for clients because they're keeping more of their paycheck. But that does mean that there's a lower refund at the end of the day. This last part here, we're seeing more and more folks owe. So out of our 2,200 returns, 574 had a balance due with an average of $1,254. And as you'll learn, pretty much all of our clients do not have $1,254 to send to the IRS. The good news is here too, with unemployment, only 125 people reported receiving any unemployment. Again, earned income credit was only on 430 returns. That includes singles as well as married filing joint. The child tax credit, again, we're not seeing as many as we'd like to. Same thing with education credits. Just, the world that we deal with, um, folks aren't sending a lot of their kids to college and therefore will qualify for the American Opportunity Credit. Only 63 taxpayers did. Same thing with even like the retirement savings credit. Only 177 got that little refundable credit for having a payroll deduction. Um, again, that is gets to the crux of our issue is people are in our world are living paycheck to paycheck. So that kind of stands to reason. To process all that, we had at least 2,000 volunteer hours. And for those, I think we have a few students on with us tonight. Last year at the College of New Jersey, we had 13 volunteers, and they prepared 437 of our returns. So basically 20% of the total was done by a group of TCNJ sophomores and juniors, which is pretty awesome. And with this group on, hopefully we'll be able to continue that uh, that those numbers going up. So that is kind of like sort of the overview of what we're all about. Now I want to just jump back into this presentation. So the next steps for F once we get done with this is in 2 weeks we're going to be starting some training on the basics of U.S. tax law, both online and possibly in person. Generally, we do this on online. That seems to work best for a lot of folks using Zoom. Um, I mean, we'll have some functional training using our tax prep software, which is called TaxWise. A lot of you, if you have some tax experience, you probably maybe never even heard of TaxWise. TaxWise used to be the approved vendor for the VITA program by the IRS. About 7 years ago, the contract was put up for bid, and it's now goes to Tax Slayer, which is a fairly similar to an Intuit looking product like TurboTax. But it is different. It's a little clunky, but we've kind of come to love it. We're the only VITA program in New Jersey that still uses TaxWise. And it works well for us. When you see how we set it up to basically work with the kind of folks that we do work with, you kind of I think you'll kind of get it pretty quickly. The one thing about the way that our VITA program runs, as opposed to maybe others that some of you may have been had experience with, we are all face to face. We did some remote work. We did some drop in, drop off kind of stuff coming out of COVID. A lot of VITA programs kind of went that way hardcore, particularly United Way of Central New Jersey out of New Brunswick and Milltown. They do a lot of that, but they also have a lot more staff and a lot more resources as far as using other technology platforms to manage the process. It is a huge process to manage. Personally, I think it was 4 times the amount of work for basically the same type of clients that we have. So again, ours is basically all face to face. We find it works great with our client base. We can get a lot done a lot quicker, I think, rather than going back and forth. If people were to drop off material at one of our sites and we'd have to scan it to a Dropbox account. We'd have to assign it to a preparer, or it would have to be reviewed. We have to get the client to come back again. A lot of telephone conversations have to happen, which is sometimes quite difficult with folks who are working, trying to get a hold of everybody. So we find that our little setup works pretty well for the way our cohort works. The other thing you have to do is you have to successfully pass the IRS qualification exams. It starts with two 10-question quizzes, one on basic called ethics, things that you can and cannot do. It's pretty obvious stuff. This is not rocket science at all. And the second one is just the intake and quality review process. Why it's important, for get a accurate tax return, and then to pass the basic or advanced qualification exams. They're each 35 multiple choice questions. The exams are actually available right now. They just came out this past week. And I'll be sending out links to take a look at it. It's all open book. You can do all the questions prior to actually logging onto the IRS website, which is not set up yet. So we're way ahead of that right now. Um, and the thing is, we'd encourage everyone to go and do the advanced certification. There's three main differences in the types of returns we see between basic qualification and advanced. The first one is any kind of self-employment income. So if you are and most of our self-employed people fall into three categories. They either do some sort of household cleaning, they are Uber drivers, or they are delivery type folks, either for DoorDash or Instacart, or even for like Amazon, Walmart, things like that. Those are basically the three types of Schedule C businesses that we see. The other thing is if anybody gets their health care off the exchange, that requires advanced certification, as does calculation of some pensions where the taxable amount is not calculated. And that happens very, very, very rarely in our world. Most people that get pensions around here are from the state of New Jersey, and their taxable amount is almost always calculated for them. So we don't have to worry about that. Again, at the end of the day, we try and make this fun. We take things slow when we start, and get everybody up to speed, and you'd be surprised how much fun you have. So I'm going to just save this now, stop my sharing and stop the recording. And I want to open it up to